Welcome everyone to the Supply Chain Talk. I'm Anna Maria Vedica and I'm your host today. I'm the founder and director at Green Apple's Career. I have two expert guests who will join me shortly. The episode today is Building Resilient and Adaptive Supply Chain, Thriving Amid Disruptions. Thank you to our audience who join us on both platforms via Business Reporter website. You get the full episode experience and you can interact in real time with my guests. And welcome to our LinkedIn audience. Please post your comments and your questions on LinkedIn because our producer will keep an eye on the feed and will post the questions so we can reply in real time. And as you know, the best comment, compliment, why not, will be rewarded with a Supply Chain Talk mug, which will be couriered by my colleagues at Business Reporter. So thank you so much for being here. And I would like to open our virtual stage by Hello, everyone. Sorry for the technical issues. So welcome, everyone. Welcome to our Supply Chain Talk, Building Resilient and Adaptive Supply Chain, Thriving Amid Disruptions. Welcome and apologies for the technical issues. We welcome the audience from both platforms, from our Business Reporter website. You get the full episode experience. Welcome to our audience on LinkedIn. You can interact, post your comments. Our producer will keep an eye on the feed and will post all the questions here. So our episode today is an amazing topic, and we will crack it on with real challenging times about the tariffs imposed by the new presidency. But before we delve deeply in this topic, I would like to invite my guests. My first panelist is Tatiana Yoshida. If you can unmute yourself. Hello, Tatiana.
Hello.
Welcome
Hello.
to Chain Talk. Tatiana Yoshida is Innovation and Technology Coordinator at Grupo Energia. Tatiana is a sustainability expert turned innovation leader, bridging ESG and technology to drive business transformation. A drone pilot and a specialty coffee enthusiast, Tatiana combines her passion for technology with a love for exploring global flavors. Welcome to our Supply Chain Talk, Tatiana.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Anna. It's a pleasure.
The second guest is Pavan Prasad. You can turn your camera and the mic, please. Yes. Hello, Pavan.
Hello, Anna.
Pavan is a senior director with Genpact Consulting and the supply chain senior advisor, specialized in transformation projects, from operating model design to digital supply chain platform implementation. Pavan is experience spans across industry, practitioner roles, and working with leading consulting firms. He brings first-hand experience guiding large-scale change programs in supply chain, primarily focused on pharma and the life science industry. Outside of work, Pavan enjoys hiking and going on nature trails with his family. That's when he's not catching up on cricket tournaments. Welcome again to both of you to our Supply Chain Talk. So as you know, we have a news item, and I will invite our audience. Please, if you follow us and you dial in from the Business Reporter website via Zoom, please make sure that you open the chat box in order to communicate and interact with us. And I would like us to have a bit of a warm-up. So let's get into the news item. Amid tariff turmoil, proactive supply chain strategies for retail, written by Eric Linkswiller. And the big highlights of this news item is the Trump administration has revived tariffs as a core instrument of US trade policy, imposing sweeping new duties on imports from Canada, Mexico, European Union, and China. And these actions and tariffs have triggered a rapid escalation in trade tensions, with US trading partners announcing retaliatory tariffs. And we know what does this mean in supply chain. It's a big disruption. So it's more than a disruption, it's a structural shift in global trade. Also, the writer brings some strategies. Some of them are best practice in procurement, such as diversifying your supply base in order to have backup suppliers, but also talks about niche strategies, such as tariff engineering and foreign trade zones to protect profitability and maintain supply chain continuity. I would like to invite you, Tatiana, first, if you can express your thoughts about the news item. Tatiana?
Hi, my connection seems to be unstable. If I have problems with this, yeah.
I think we can hear you now.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, technical issues too from my side. So I think this news has proved that it's not enough nowadays to have a moderately diversified supply chain. It has proved everybody that there is much more we need to do to face this political instability, wars, and etc. So it has to be like a combination of diversity in suppliers, in the field assessments to verify how the risks are mounting up in the supply chain, but also allied to technology, using predictive tools to try to anticipate these problems. So
exactly, Tatiana, and technology proves to be essential in this rapid turmoil, with so many black swans coming up. Pavan, what's your take on the news item?
It's exactly on point, isn't it? And I know tariffs very recently, so last couple of months, we have seen massive changes, right? So the whole world has been taken by storm with that. But in a way, if you look at the VUCA world, that's been continuing for a while. We have seen more frequent events that's bringing uncertainty. And I would say we have actually moved from a VUCA world to a hyper VUCA world, right? So that's where we are. And it's going to stay. It's not going back. And I like the point that you make about structural shift. It's not a one-off thing, right? So supply chains have to respond, taking that into account, that you have to now create a by design resilient supply chain to be able to respond to these events, which will happen more often, and we are seeing there's increasing frequency, right? And yeah, it's completely. I mean, there was a recent survey done by PwC, which is their annual event, right? So it's a global CEO survey, and you had 33% CEOs responding, saying that geopolitical tensions are going to be one of the reasons why they might not meet their growth targets, right? So yeah, so this is going to stay. And what caught my attention is a structural shift. The focus that it's not a one-off thing is key. It's key,
exactly. And thank you to those who comment in real time. We have a comment from Clive Barkley. How feasible is tariff engineering? Are large and enterprise organizations looking at this, changing design or classification to get a lower tariff? What do you think, Tatiana?
Well, I don't know if I think I solved my connection issues. I'm sorry for that. Well,
Okay.
I'm from Brazil, so our tariffs here are massive. So for now, for us Brazilians, it's like ordinary procedure, tariff engineering. But I think the world is experiencing this urgent need for that to happen, and I think technology will help using modeling and to predict scenarios, especially with the fluctuation or rapid change of tariffs. So for us Brazilians, we are already prepared, more prepared for that, I think.
Yes, unfortunately, we don't have anyone from China in at this panel discussion because they suffer from 147 tariff. So this is insane. Anything to add, Pavan?
I think perfectly on point, right? And to Clive's question, yes, organizations are very much interested, and you can see on both sides one interest from these organizations asking about, hey, what's happening on the tariff, and how do you bring in more resiliency? At the same time, from the service provider side as well, you might have almost all service providers with their solutions front and center now talking about tariff. So you see that shift from both angle. And let's be fair, in a way, tariff engineering has been always there, right? What's new is the frequency, because earlier you would do tariff question would come into play when you're setting up a new team, you're setting up a new facility, and then you would say, hey, where do I get the best value chain transformation goals from, right? But now the point is, how do I make this more often? How can I actually look at my classification of the products, or how can I look at alternate markets and moving my based on that? So it's a frequency that's come into core rather than tariff engineering itself, because it was always there.
Yeah, and I think we should consider the intensity of the variations. We didn't have that
145, yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. And thank you, Clive, for your comment. I would like us to go into the main topic, the first one, designing flexible recovery frameworks to ensure continuity during disruptions. And I'm thinking about my days in supply chain, about proactive risk management. In supply chain, this being proactive it's business as usual. You need to be proactive in being creative to identify risk in order to mitigate them, especially in this ever-changing environment. Tatiana, what's your view? How do you advise? In your line of work, how do you advise the business about being proactive in risk management? Can you give us an example?
For example, in the energy sector, there is the use of AI and IoT is increasing for the management of power generation plants, for example, and transmission lines and the energy distribution. So when you integrate the system and you have real data coming in, you can run digital twins, for example, because digital twins are not regular simulations. They learn with the data that is coming in. They can forecast different scenarios, and you can play with everything much easily than using other models. So I think from the energy sector, IoT and real data monitoring is imperative for us to have predictive analysis and also incorporate climate change factors, because this was not something that was considered some years ago, but now flooding, storms, and everything that can affect the energy grid must be considered. And it was something that was only like, let's check the weather forecast, but now they need to be inside the predictive analysis.
Exactly, Tatiana. I was responsible to forecast a very seasonal product for babies, and it was the powder milk was used more in day to day, let's say, throughout the year. But we observe there is a seasonality with the liquid baby formula during the summertime. Because it was easy to grab it for moms on holidays, to feed the babies. So and now with what's going on with the climate change, I think it's super important to build that weather and all the seasonality as part of the predictive analytics. Pavan, from your experience at Genpact, if you can give us some examples about proactive risk management to ensure continuity.
Absolutely. Again, and beyond as well, right? Like the key one, and Tatiana touched upon this, is building the scenarios and be ready to be able to deploy that. And it's very important how you build those scenarios, because the key is creating the scorecard and choosing the right metrics to evaluate those scenarios and bringing it up when you need alternately. The other is also this capacity redundancy. So that's part of flexibility. How do you really build flexibility? And it comes with either capacity redundancy or inventory redundancy, positioning them where you need. You don't want to use them in normal scenario because obviously it increases your costs, and that's on your scorecard, right? But when it's required and you have to be, that's part of flexibility. And the third one, other than the redundancy of the capacity and inventory, is the manpower flexibility, right? So you play with that based on your scenario and bring it in. So that's absolutely one of the key strategies that we observe across.
I love the flexibility, and you need AI is not, the ultimate savior. You need to balance resource allocation, especially in this urge, peak, and surge of demand, for example.
Correct.
And how do we develop an incident response strategy to minimize the downtime and protect critical assets? And I'm thinking about there are some generic steps like preparation, detection, analysis, containment, eradication, recovery, and lessons learned. Tatiana.
Well, modular response, I think, should be considered, because in training and knowledge transfer, we can see that companies operating silos, and for you to respond rapidly to disruptions, silos won't work. So you need integration, you need modular scenarios and quick responses, agile decision making, and empowerment of teams. Because, for example, if you wait for the decision making to be only at the top, you won't be quick enough to respond to the incident. So this is what I see in companies. For example, I have experience in the agricultural sector, and you need to empower people in the operations to make quick decisions, to respond rapidly, and you need to establish modular responses so that they can, okay, in this scenario, let's do this, and let's do that.
Empower the people, exactly, to be brave, to react. Pavan, how do you see this incident response strategy being tackled and managed by companies?
Create the response profile, right? So on these incident response profiles, the key thing is you keep testing it, right? So you don't have to wait to keep it updated, right? So that's the key part. And again, how relevant is that question, isn't it? In the last couple of days, the Iberian Peninsula has had this major severe incident where there's power outage, right? And think about it, it's not just the normal lives, which has been widely reported, obviously, in the media, but for businesses, for organizations, your manufacturing plant, right? They get disrupted. Your shipments, they are disrupted. Your manpower, people are not turning up to the plants and to offices and so on. So how do you respond to that energy that was at the core of it, right? So the key one is creating that incident response profile, building it right, testing it more often, and keeping it updated. The parameters need to be updated current, because many a times you find organizations, when there's an incident, going to the profile and finding the parameters are obsolete because you tested it
Yeah.
3 years back, right?
Exactly. Or I'm still a bit surprised. I will add one more example. Mark and Spencer, the cyber attack. It's one of the biggest retailers in the UK. And right before our episode, I tested. I just went on their website, edit on in the shopping cart one item, and an alert saying we paused online orders. So it's been almost a week, and still they don't have the capacity to respond. We talk about big players, big retailers. And I wonder, cyber attack has always been there. It's not like it's something that we are seeing more and more. So as you said, test it, make sure that the business continuity is relevant. And we have a beautiful comment from Steffi saying, as someone who lives in Madrid, all of these questions are being asked of our electricity providers this week. Exactly what Pavan was mentioning. Exactly. But yes, exactly, Pravan, complete blackout and complete disruption, nothing in or out. Exactly, it's a bit shocking that you wonder, we are living in such turbulent times since COVID. COVID was the biggest and the toughest teacher for all of us, especially the leaders in supply chain, especially in critical products or FMCGs in food and beverage, critical life products. And still we haven't learned the lesson. And this is one of the steps of these incident response strategies, lessons learned. Do companies learn? What do you think, Tatiana?
Well, I think let's be optimists here. Some companies are better prepared, but what I've seen in since COVID and now the tariffs and climate change is that I think humans alone are not able to abstract so much to deal with such different scenarios and unpredictable scenarios. So that's why I think we should like go together with technology and AI, because it can analyze such amounts of data and big data analysis to aggregate this step. There's one more step that we need to avoid this disruptions. So I think with this tariff, I think it's the last thing we should face to really learn what needs to be done to avoid this kind of disruption. So we had COVID, we're having climate change and now tariffs war. So what else should we have to learn?
Learn, exactly. And I can already see the leaders in this call implementing, if they haven't already, implementing business continuity risks as business as usual, once a week, once at every 2 business continuity plans, testing or risk management team meetings where creative risks are being identified. What if? And this is something that the article, the news item was talking about. Ask this question, what if? And be creative and bold, as you said, Tatiana. Empower the people to dare to ask, what if there is a cyber attack? What if there is a flood or an incident or a shortage in human resource, or the digital twin is, out of a sudden out of order? So, Pavan, anything to add?
No, perfectly. I mean, to your question, are the organizations learning? And yes, they are. And what I have seen in recent, because earlier, and I focus on pharma industry, right? So earlier you had big pharmacos still focusing on their digitalization and so on, right? But increasingly, you also have the small and medium enterprises and small pharmacos as well putting this right up the agenda, right? So that's key. And they are concerned with all this VUCA world, and they are concerned about how do I keep the business continuity, as you said, right? I remember there was this Gartner survey where you had 1 in 5, so that's huge, supply chain execs saying that they don't feel their supply chain network is resilient, right? And they have responded by putting the budget where it's needed on digitalization, on creating capabilities to be able to predict and respond faster, because now it's going to become a norm. It's no more, as you initially said, black swan. There are too many black swans, so are they really black swans now?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes, Pawan, exactly. So this is predicting fast. This is crucial, and I would like to see organization really implementing these lessons learned, and big corporations, they have it as a norm. I'm implementing it with my clients now, lessons learned on all my highlight reports. When I report progress on a fortnightly basis, I have a section lessons learned, because it's crucial to learn, and to learn from mistakes, from testing, from failing fast and often. This is progress. Mapping dependencies is important, and assessing vulnerabilities to mitigate these systemic risks. Yeah, because with the world changing, we are seeing systemic changes. How do we map the dependencies in supply chain to build a more adaptive, resilient supply chain? How do organizations identify these critical dependencies to allocate resource more efficiently? Tatiana, what do you think from your experience?
From my experience, there is the classic approach from mapping dependencies, that how much, what is the share of supplier A, B, and C. So we should like pay attention to these ones. But for example, when you talk about soybean and you go to the farm to check the origin of the bean, and you can see that the supplier that provides you like 40% of the soybeans in that region may have like put some beans from like a farm nearby that is involved in child labor or conflicts in general. So checking the papers, checking the financial health is not enough for you to map and to qualify if the supplier that is so relevant to you is okay, and if the risks are known. So to go to the field and put together the technical knowledge and the financial knowledge together with the field experience, the guy that goes there and knows all the producers and can sense if they are doing something wrong, it's essential for you to map vulnerabilities. So I've always said to the clients, it's not enough to produce or to develop a very strict contract or a detailed clause about the origin of the raw material. You need to go to the field and adjust what you have inside the house in terms of mapping the risk.
Exactly, Tatiana, because nothing beats a good supplier visit. And when you go there, you see the dependencies, you see the issues with, and not only you build a great collaboration in this ever-changing world, but you need to see with your own eyes what's the reality on site. Pavan, from your experience, mapping dependencies and assessing vulnerabilities, how does it work?
You definitely need to map your critical components, if not all, right? So for all your key products, you must have your value chain mapped, right? And I remember a big pharma co, Japan headquartered, right? When they started mapping their supply chain for a drug product, right? They found that it was actually traveling the whole globe from Japan to Italy and then to Northern Ireland, right? And way back. And that's like huge from sustainability perspective or even from cost, right? So you definitely need to know. When you start doing that, you figure out, hey, are there other options? And again, increasingly people are open to doing localization of supply chains and nearshoring, right? So can I explore those? So definitely you should map that. And again, depending on how much is the budget, it could be, you could segment and focus more on the key ones, or ideally you should have all of those. And I remember like probably there's a number of probably only 15% organizations that can see beyond their T-2 suppliers, right? So it's the risk is huge. I mean, we all recognize that you should know your suppliers and it should be integrated, but it's not, it's easier said than done, right? So that mapping of dependencies is quite key. And I again remember we mentioned COVID earlier in the talk, right? The US government came with this bipartisan act, which is focused on exactly their API in pharma, right? So which is called Prepare, which is basically promoting the readiness and ensuring your API, which is the base product, the active ingredient for the essential medicines, is there in the country, right? Is available when needed. And then there was another example where the Austrian government actually did. So it's not just organizations, the governments are also focusing on this. The Austrian government, I think, supported Sandoz, it was widely reported, created a funding line for them to support plant in Austria. And I think it was one of the plants which was outside of Asia, focusing on antibiotics production, right? So generics. So yeah, it's absolutely key. Once you know the dependencies, only then you can address any risk coming from it, right?
Exactly. Break it down, understand, map, and then you understand what are the dependencies. We have a comment from Pierre. You can't blockchain every soybean. That sense is a personal relationship with clients and suppliers. Tatiana, I think this is a comment related to your example.
Yeah, it's a challenge when you talk about grains and like liquids. It's a challenge. Blockchain can help you speed up some commercial transactions, but the supply qualifications is and guarantee of origin is still a challenge. And he's right. It's a sense, and because we need to understand the culture of the place. And for example, in Brazil, it's a huge country. It varies from one region to another. That's why they have such a huge operational team in the field.
In terms of mapping the dependencies, I can also give an example, a recent example from mentoring a company. We implemented amazing ESG practices for procurement, how to audit more responsibly, how to source more responsibly. However, the huge dependency and the big success of the program depends heavily on data. Data is owned by IT department. So, and we highlighted on a fortnightly basis the dependency and the delays. Sometimes the communication, there is a miscommunication. IT expecting procurement to speak IT language. This is not possible. So, and that's why you need business IT. So, and this is just an example in terms of a program. You cannot implement anything, any resilient supply chain without all, as you said, Pavan, without knowing what are actually all the critical components of the value chain in order to deliver this outcome. And you need to report it in an objective manner to unlock to unlock resource. Yes, anything to add, Tatiana, from your experience, not necessarily from, at the current companies, but from your decades of experience, anything in terms of leadership skills nowadays? Probably do the leaders need to display different leadership skills in terms of being more reactive, more predictive, more creative, more courageous?
Yeah, definitely. Times of so much change and rapid changes, leaders should be adaptable, should respond well to changes. For example, there are some sectors that we know that are very traditional and like to work using a very defined framework, a very old framework. So this needs to be adjusted. And for example, there is a case, a recent case, when you build massive solar farms, there is like a very intense work in terms of procurement, tariffs, engineering, and etc. Because we're talking about solar farms that have 2 million solar panels, for example. So everything was well structured. The leadership was very very engaged. Everything was fine until there was a field visit that somebody like from the operations paid attention to the bridge where the trucks should arrive to deliver the equipment. The bridge was okay, but it was noticed that it was verified that at the end of the construction, the heavy equipments, if the trucks transporting these equipments pass through the bridge would fall. So it was communicated to the leadership, and the leadership had to quickly start engaging with local governments. So it's like empowering, agile way of work to reroute everything to try to overcome, and it's the only access for the construction. So it's imperative for the leaders to learn how to listen to the operations, because they know things that sometimes leaders are not aware of. So this has to, so hierarchical decision making or an empowerment of the field force should be imperative too.
Thank you. This is beautiful. Pavan, any, from your experience, any critical leadership skills in the current reality?
Oh, definitely. You mentioned courage, and if leaders are not courageous, they'll be forced to be courageous. We are in a kind of world where you have to think out of the box and think ahead. You have to look at your budget and allocate it at the right places to be ready to be able to respond to the supply chain needs of tomorrow, right? So definitely, and you have to look holistically. It's no more. It's a conservative market, and I'll focus on it, and maybe I'll make my business. I don't think it's secure, right? So you have to diversify your market, and at the same time look at localizing your supplier base and nearshoring it so that you have got better control at it, right? So those are the key ones, definitely.
Listen more to the field force, be courageous. I love that. On this note, I would like also to award one of the best comment to Clive. So a supply chain talk mug will be couriered by my colleagues at Business Reporter. Well done. And as a closing thought now, before I announce and I announce the next episode, and can you please, Tatiana, tomorrow, the leaders in this call, if they go back, there is one thing that you would like them, you would like them to do differently?
I think to balance more technology adoption and human-centered strategies. I think only by combining these two aspects, we will achieve more resilient supply chains.
A bit. Pavan, your closing thought.
I'll tell you the other three things. So if you are a leader currently looking at how do I build a better supply chain, like look holistically at your business model. Has it in it by design responsiveness built into it, right? So look at your business model. Look at the technology capabilities that is required to support that business model. And the most important of it, do you have the right investment in your talent to be able to utilize that tech investment, right? So it's very important that you get 1 + 1 is 11 from your human intelligence and artificial intelligence together, right?
Love it, Pavan. I like to call it a masterclass. So this is more than an episode, a supply chain talk. It's a masterclass. I hope the audience took notes because we have practitioners, we have consulting perspectives. From my side, I like also to express my closing thought is about what kind of leadership do you want to choose? Dominant leadership or ethical leadership? In a world where everything is being so dominant by tariffs being imposed, do we want to choose that route or do we want to choose an ethical route of collaboration? I would like to thank you both, Tatiana and Pavan. Thank you. I would love to have you again on a future masterclass. And for our audience, many thanks for engaging with us, for being so, active, asking questions, posting comments. Please continue to do so. Next Wednesday, the same time, we will have an episode also. I have the privilege to host that. It's about tackling labor shortages and shaping the future of supply chain talent, something I'm truly passionate about, having built supply chain talent for decades. So thank you so much. Hope to see you soon and stay safe and healthy. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.